Welcome to Creative Pages with Catherine. I'm Catherine. I am so excited to be participating in the Thrift Flip Road Trip hosted by our Green Acres and the Crafting Cousins again. I have a special project planned for y'all today. I am located just outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, and I appreciate you all stopping by. Don't forget to check out the playlist and, of course, our host channels, our Green Acres and the Crafting Cousins, to see what projects they have. We have a lot of talented people here. For today's project, I picked up this utensil holder off the side of the road. We have these, what we call curb alerts, and somebody was getting rid of this. I think they originally paid, looks like the original price on it was $14, marked down to $8, marked down to whatever, but I obtained it for free. So we're going to go ahead and jazz this one up for the 4th a bit. And I'm going to use our Creative Memories Stars and Spirits designer paper. I am a Creative Memories independent advisor. For the main part of the utensil holder, I'm going to use this wavy paper. And then we're going to take and we're going to add some stars and stripes. And finally, we're going to add a little bit of white shimmer around the top. I just thought that that would add a nice touch. I also have some special Mod Podge to use today. It's the hard coat Mod Podge. It's the one with the purple label. And if we put enough coats of this on, then it should be dishwasher safe, which is a bonus because I am going to use this with utensils later. So let's get started cutting our paper first. I'm going to grab out my trimmer. And we need, first we're going to need 3-inch strips of our white shimmer, and we essentially are going to need 20 inches to go around the entire base of the unit here, of the utensil holder. I actually do need to take about 1/8 of an inch off of the end here. It looks like I was doing some punching, and so my end was a little bit crooked, and I didn't want that on my project. So here we go. We're going to do 3 inches by 12 inches first. And then we're going to take another 3 inches because we need 20 inches, like I said. So we need a 3-inch by 8-inch piece. And I'm just working with some scraps that I've had from other projects here. So 8 inches. We're going to turn our paper 90 degrees. And there we go. Now I am going to use the wavy paper for the entire base. And for this, we're going to need to first cut it in half at 6 inches. And that's a 6 by 12 inch piece. And then we're going to go ahead and turn this also 90 degrees and take our 8-inch piece as well. And then for our stars and stripes, we're just going to use, we're going to actually kind of stagger our pieces. So this one's a little bit quilt inspired, not as quilt inspired as some of my other projects. But these, when I measured, it looks like 1 red and 1 white stripe are about 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to 1 inch and check that out. Oops. Let's see, double check with my cutting guide. No, it does look like it's a little bit inside, and we want to be on the line. So I'm going to just scoot it in just a little bit. It looks like it is not quite a quarter. It looks like we're going about 1 inch and 1/8 here. Yes. Whoops. Of course that slipped on me a little bit. Nope, that's still too far. Okay. So let's see if we can get this lined up maybe at what is this, 1 1/16" it looks like. Right in between there, because when we put it on, we're gonna space it a little bit between our stripes just to give a little bit of extra movement and interest to our flag piece that we're using here. Who knew that the paper with the stripes would be the hardest one to cut? But because we are fussy cutting it a bit, I guess it did make it a little bit more challenging. Okay, whoop. Sorry about that. We are going to go ahead and set our trimmer aside. And I'm going to go ahead and pull over my box with my crock, and we will get going here with the Mod Podge. So I now have my utensil holder set up in a box here because I definitely don't want to make a big mess of my desk. I've also gone ahead and cut my white shimmer paper into 6-inch widths. So it's a 3x6, and I have 3 of them here because essentially we're going to take this and we're going to fold it kind of going around the lip of the crock. And according to the directions for this Mod Podge, it says to put it on the paper first and then onto whatever you're putting it on, and then you can cover it up or do your exterior coat. So we're going to do the paper first, and let's hope this works out for me. This is a new kind of project for me and a new kind of Mod Podge, so here we go. There was a small little ding in the top part of this anyways, so maybe it's just as well I'm going ahead and putting the white shimmer, which tends to be a little bit thicker of a paper anyways, but I want to just work it into this little crease here of the holder, and then if I need to later, I'm gonna go ahead and trim on the inside because it looks like I'm gonna have a little bit too much paper, but it's almost better to have been too wide than obviously not wide enough. So I'm just being generous here, more on one edge than the other, the edge that's going into the little crease along the outside of the crock. I keep wanting to call it a crock, but it's an actual utensil holder, isn't it? Someone correct me if they know the proper name for this thing, because I'm used to doing the paper part and not so much the the actual pot. I did do pottery once upon a time. I actually spun clay on a wheel and everything, and it was so much fun. It was actually very therapeutic, but now I'm working with paper, and it's also therapeutic at times as well. This is a bit of a challenge. It's going to be a little bit crinkly, but that's okay because our paper has that movement anyways. Let me get underneath here a little bit more because this end is not sticking down nicely. There we go. And one more piece. More on the front end than on the back. Because like I said, I'm going to grab those microtip scissors and get in there, and or an X-Acto knife or something, and we'll get it straightened out. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So originally I think I did do 8 inches on my last piece. I did trim it down the extra 2 inches, so that way it would be 6 inches. And that way we would have the 3 6-inch strips. There we go. Woo! Perfect. Now, just get this stuck down a little bit better. And it's going to be time, I think, to let this dry for a bit. Well, yeah, I think we should let this first layer dry for a little bit before I start putting on the next part, because I want to make sure this stays in, and then our waves are going to go over this bottom part, and then we'll do our flag. So I'll be back with you in a little bit. We'll see how long this dries for. So I went back after doing the top. I've let it dry for about an hour to an hour and a half, and I've cut my piece that was 12 inches into two 6-inch sections again, but I did leave my 8-inch section alone. I'm going to go ahead and use the larger section to cover the part with the chalk area, or the place where you can write and chalk on it. And this looks like it's going to be just tall enough to fit over our mark here. I'm probably going to try to line up some of my seams. Yeah. In fact, actually, I think we're going to go ahead and do the shorter sections first and then put this longer section on, because that makes more sense. And let me see how this is going to line up here, maybe. If I can match up the smaller section here, and then that way my seams will kind of run along the same lines. I think that'll work out for me. Okay, so we're just going to start here. We're going to start with one of the 6-inch sections, and this is almost like doing a live. I've only got one utensil holder, so it's got to work for me the first time here. Let me set this aside just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and flatten out my paper because it's a larger piece of paper. And I want to get this Mod Podge on here evenly if I can. Hopefully it will minimize some of the potential crinkling. Let's hope we don't get too much paper crinkling as we do this, but some of that's a little bit expected, and I don't think it'll be terrible, especially because we're going to be putting the overcoats on as well, or the outer coats of the Mod Podge as well. So here we go. Let's line this up with the bottom of the utensil holder, and I'm going to fold this in just a little bit. Whoops. Okay. I'm glad I just did 6 inches. I think that's probably, you don't want more than that, because it is slipping around a little bit more now that we have the larger piece. And I'm going to just move it down just a little, and I'm going to move on to the next one, and I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to try to manipulate this top a little bit more and hopefully get it to create that inset just a little bit more. And we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to match up my stripes too. I'm going to overlap it just a hair, but I do want it to try to be somewhat seamless if I can. Try to line these up so that way if our flag goes over it, at least it'll look like it's intentional, which it kind of is. And we're trying to keep things nice and tidy and lined up here. Oh, this one kind of has the red towards the bottom as well. Yep, here we go. I think we can line this one up as well. Ish. That's pretty close. Okay, am I on the camera? Yes, I think I'm on the camera, which is great too. You can see where the stripes are lining up. It's just a little bit off at the bottom, but since we have this neutral white crock underneath, you can't really notice it too much, and maybe that'll just be wind up being the back of our crock instead. But I'd rather have the stripes lined up on one side but not on the other. My colors. That's interesting. So, okay, well, so maybe this is going to be the back side, is the part where the stripe colors don't quite match up. And then I'm going to go ahead and hug this top part a little bit. Give it just a little bit of love here. Try to get it to go in for me. Might need to put a little bit of the Mod Podge in and under also here. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. working it up and in. It's kind of crinkling in places a little bit. And I guess that's okay because the top is a little bit crinkled too. And like I said, we know we're going to be putting several overcoats onto here. Let me angle this so you can see it a little bit better. So it is crinkling just a little bit, but that's okay because the top is just a little bit crinkled as well. And I think actually by having the paper with the waves on it helps us as well because the design is busy too, and it kind of helps to hide some of those extra crinkles. I'm going to go under here again just a little bit because I found it needed just a little bit more to help get it to fold under and into this dip that the utensil holder has. And then I think what I'm going to do is let it dry again for probably another hour and a half or so. I mean, this is really coming together nicely, but it does definitely need to have plenty of drying time. And I think it's just because this Mod Podge is just a little bit more of a thicker formula. And I will show you the container again in just a little bit because right now my hands are Mod Podged a little bit. Just from making sure that my seams are nice and straight here. Everything is flowing nicely and going into this interior part here of the utensil holder. All right, so there we go. There's a close-up. You can kind of see where I'm just even leaving a little bit of the Mod Podge on the outside because I know I'm going to be putting more layers on and that'll be okay. But we also still have our, I'm actually going to turn this upside down just in case there's a little bit towards the bottom here. I don't want my bottom to get stuck to my box. But we still have our stars and stripe piece to put on. But like I said, I'm definitely going to let this dry again for probably another hour, hour and a half. And then we'll put on our stars and stripes and then we'll start putting on our top layers. So I'll be back with you again in just a little bit. So I'm back. I'm ready to start putting my stars and stripes. Strips that we cut are 1 inch, a little bit over 1 inch, maybe 1 1/16 inch by 12-inch strips. And I'm going to go ahead and start here on this back side. But what we're going to do is we're going to start by placing it on the bottom of our utensil holder, what I keep wanting to call our crock. But somebody hopefully is going to put something in the comments and let me know what this thing is actually called that I'm working on here, because I do want to use it for utensils. Who knows? All right, and then this is my longer strip, so I'm going to go ahead and line it up here. All right, I think this is my 8-inch part of my wavy paper. And so therefore it's going to go into this next section a little bit. All right. Okay, I'm back with my last strip. And this one is going to be a little bit tricky because it's going to go into that curved part at the top of our piece we're working on. And I figured I'd go ahead and place it where you all could see. And we're just going to follow this curve and follow this fold in as best we can. I'm going to try to work with some of these other crinkles here. Okay, this needs to be lined up right here. So let me go back just a little bit here and work this up. Oops. A little bit of space in between here. I figure I have about 1/4 of an inch between each of the strips and the other parts here. So we don't want it butted up exactly against the stars below it. I mean, you can see it actually lined up pretty well there. And now let's run the stripes across. There we go. Get this to go somewhat flat here. Oops, my strip I think is already drying a little bit, but I'm just gonna Put just maybe a little bit more of the Mod Podge underneath, kind of like how I did when I was doing the other part of the top, and just giving myself a little bit more to work with here. And even if it oozes up a little, it's okay, because we are going to put some more over the top so we can hopefully make this dishwasher safe. At least if nothing else, hand wash safe, so we can actually be able to use this in my real kitchen here. Won't that be fun? All right, wow, that dried really quick. I don't know what I did, well, maybe because it was a smaller piece, I don't know, or maybe I just didn't put quite as much on it, I don't know. But we're gonna go ahead and start with our overlay here as well. I'm hoping I can get this on thin enough. So I'm just gonna do the stars part here, and then maybe I'll work my way around. Well, I know that sounded a little bit like a question, but like I said, I kind of feel a little bit like I'm on a live right now, because I'm doing this really for the first time, because I really only had one crock, and you just don't know, all the sizes of these things are a little bit different. So I'm going back and forth over it just to try to make sure it's even, and I want it to be thin enough so I can still see the paper, the design, through the Mod Podge here when it dries. So let's hope this works out for me. The Mod Podge has now dried overnight. I just decided to go ahead and give myself a little bit of an extra break here, and it's dried really well. This was from the first layer. It's dried nice and clear. We will be putting on an additional 3 layers, but I wanted to show you the inside here. I've got this little extra flap of paper because I'd wanted to make sure I had enough to cover both the outside to get this indenture in the, whatever we're calling this, covered, and then also the inside, but it went a little bit too far into the inside. This was the 3-inch wraparound. So I'm guessing you can go to maybe 2 inches instead, but I will gonna get this corrected using an X-Acto knife. So I have the X-Acto knife. I'm just gonna go ahead and run it along the interior here, and I'm gonna cut through and cut around. Oops, let's see if I can actually get this on camera and where I can see it too. So I'm just gonna cut through and cut around, and I will join you again in a few minutes. It looks like I went up a little bit too far here, but that's okay, because you know what? I'm always saying it's paper, and that's true. It is paper. And look at that, it just comes right off. Even actually at this higher point, it almost looks a little bit nicer. So I may go back and go back up along this higher part of the seam, so that way it looks extra neat. But y'all don't need to be watching me for however long it's going to take me to do this. I wanted to show you what I was going to be doing, and I will be back again with you shortly so we can put on the last couple layers of our Mod Podge as well. And so I've now finished up with my trimming on the interior excess of the paper from inside my utensil holder, or whatever it is that we're going to call it. Most of my paper did come off in a nice big strip. I did have a few smaller pieces and went back and trimmed a couple of extra little parts off. I think I've mentioned before that I am a chef, and I think almost took a meat cutting approach to this, so I don't know. It might have been comical for you all to watch me actually cut that paper, but it's done now. It's okay. I am now going to put on 3 more coats of the hard coat Mod Podge to my utensil holder today, and then I will come back and show you all once it's all dried again. It's nice and clear now. You saw when I painted it on yesterday that it did, you could definitely tell where we were painting it because it had that little bit of a filmy look to it. but I do want to get this so I can actually wash it from time to time. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and put on 3 coats throughout the day today. I don't think y'all need to really see that either, because you have seen me paint on Mod Podge, and, you know, nobody really wants to watch that many times. So I will be back to show you the finished utensil holder. So here it is, our finished utensil holder that I actually got some utensils into. You can see all of the sides here. It looks nice and clean. The feel of it is really not like paper. You can almost see that little bit of a shine to it from where the Mod Podge dried. I did put 4 coats on it, and I think it is going to be okay for me to wash it occasionally and to keep my utensils in it. And I really hope you enjoyed this patriotic, what are we calling it? Somebody leave me a comment. My patriotic DIY. Please check out the playlist and the other creators who have made projects for this. Until next time.